Today we'll be continuing with our spotlight on the ongoing debate about the coffee sector and the entire rationalization process. And I'll be speaking to two senior citizens. Well, we know the government has insisted that it will be pushing ahead with its plan to actually rationalize the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, despite several camps or groups coming up to say it wouldn't be a wise idea. Just in the news there, you had the Uganda Premier, Katikiro, Charles Peter Maiga, insisting that they are not in favor of that move. We have heard from MPs from Buganda who are also demanding for an apology. We have also heard from MPs from other regions which grow coffee who are also insisting that this bill should actually be withdrawn. But the government maintains that the move aims at cost cutting. They want to rationalize agencies that seem to be costing the taxpayer a lot of money. But some people have insisted that there is need to be systematic, and agencies like UCDA, which have helped the coffee subsector to grow, must be saved. President Yoweri Museveni has supported the position of the government, and he says it's not only UCDA which is responsible for the boom that we are seeing in the coffee subsector. There's Operation Wealth Creation, and that even taking it back to the ministry, where it will be headed by a commissioner, will still bring value to the coffee subsector. So today, two senior citizens in studio to share their insights about the rationalization process, but also the ongoing debate on the coffee bill. Let me introduce the Honorable Victoria Sechitoleko, Chairperson, Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, Board Member, Private Sector Foundation. She did serve this country as a Minister of Agriculture and was representative of FAO, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization, in different countries. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Sechitoleko.
Good evening, listeners. I hope you are all fine.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Also in studio, Professor Magi Chigozi. She is a business consultant, one of the senior private sector players in our country, did serve as executive director of the Uganda Investment Authority, and she does play different roles, including in the Scouts movement. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Professor Magi Chigozi.
Thank you for the invitation. Listeners, good evening.
Right, let's begin with a broader picture before we zero down on the issue of the coffee subsector. I want to hear your view as senior citizens. You've been in this country, served in different capacities. You've also been to other countries. You've seen how the economies have evolved and the policies that have been taken to reshape the economies and to move the countries where they are at the moment. There is this issue called rationalization, where the government now thinks there are too many agencies. We need to scale them down and ensure that we're not spending a lot. I want to begin in principle, and I begin with you, Honorable Victoria Sechitoleko. What is your take about the decision to actually carry out this exercise?
First of all, in principle, the exercise is fine. What I don't understand, though, is why it seems to be behaving like they were not very well prepared. Some people are behaving like they've been ambushed into a decision, because when I hear the discussions going on, that is the feeling I get. That is one. Then two, Ugandans don't like uncertainty. That is why actually people fear change. So change in itself is frightening enough. But if you are not sure, now that you have changed, exactly where are you going and how will you get there, that frightens you. So while there were too many agencies, and I agree with that, I wouldn't sweep everything with one broom, paint everybody with one brush and say there are too many, there are drainage, there are whatever. No. For me, I would rather, like they did, look at these agencies one by one, because even when they were being formed, it was one by one. And I remember after the policy, which was made in 1990, for government to get out of business and so on and so forth, Maif was the first one to surrender coffee, because UCDA was not under Maif at that time. It was under the means of cooperatives. So for the act of 1991 setting up UCDA, it actually came from the means of cooperatives, because their job was to do the regulation and mostly do the marketing, because it is that means which is in charge of marketing. But now things have been evolving and changing and whatever. So when I heard that UCDA was going to go back to the ministry, my first question was, to which ministry? Because from what I remember, it was under
Cooperatives.
of cooperatives. So when I talked to Honorable Tumwevas and he tells me, no, my if, and I'm like, oh, it changed. Are you also now in charge of cooperatives? Because most of the coffee we are talking about is in cooperatives. So I asked him, do you now also run the agriculture cooperatives? He said, Victoria, the ministry is big enough without going into that. But how are you going to do it if you are taking UCDA and the cooperatives remain where they are? But anyway, you wanted my general comment. My general comment is, let us not paint every organization with the same brush.
I want you to actually explain that when you say we should not paint every organization with the same brush. That points to the process through which the rationalization is actually being done.
Yeah.
And you say you seem to see that they were not prepared. In your experience, what do you think needed to be done in order for us to have a smooth process, since you do agree that in principle there are too many, they need to be downsized?
As former Minister of Agriculture, who was minister in 1991 when UCDA was being set up, if, I feel like, we gave birth to this baby, and this baby got married and was doing well. So if we needed change, the first thing I would have wanted to do is sit down and say, now this girl is old enough. Maybe she's going to go and get married, or she now has her salary and all that. She has bought her house. She's going to move into her own house. So that type of arrangement would be in place. Then, like long ago, the aunties used to do, we would sit the girl down and say, we now feel you are old enough, and feel free to spread your wings. So where would I have expected them to spread their wings? The first thing which I saw and I actually liked and supported is when UCDA decided to pull Uganda out of the International Coffee Organization. That in itself was showing that UCDA has now grown up. They have looked at what they've been told to look after, and they have found that this is unnecessary baggage. So I was hoping that they were going to go to the next stage, which we had discussed before, but then it was not directly under MAIF, it was under means of trade, meaning we had been discussing a possibility of setting up a coffee auction. Because right now, for me, what is bothering me is not how much salary the UCDA employees are getting and whatever, it is how much money the farmer is getting. One of the things I do, and I thank my father for that, I know how to read. So I read about the whole world. When I read about Brazil having a frost, and then I read about Vietnam having the problems they are having, and then I see this boom in Uganda. Under normal circumstances, if Uganda was not, I'll use the word confused, I'll explain later on. If Uganda was not confused, this coffee which we are celebrating now, the $4 we are celebrating per kilo, should be something like $10. But because of the system we have, which until that is where I agree 100% with the president when he says he's not going to raise slaves. The price, international price of coffee now, is minimum of $10. Why is Uganda? Why is the farmer from Masaka getting $4 when he could get $10? So if I had been in the ministry now, that is the battle I would have been fighting with the UCDA, with the whole world until, and it is really interesting how little sometimes one has to do in order to get what they want.
Okay.
So if we want to get rid of UCDA, for me, I would have first of all gone, put up the auction, raise the money to $10. Then after that, have another look at UCDA. Now that we have the auction, exactly what is your role now, and what is the role of MAIF? And what should we do in order to not only increase this money from $4 to $10, but get those 20 million bags?
All right. I'll be getting back to you. Let's hear from Professor Maggie Chigozi. In principle, the issue of rationalization, cutting down the institutions. What is your take on that?
I was actually around, like Victoria was, when rationalization happened.
And I was strategic when I was inviting you for this discussion, the two of you.
Yes. And the reasons, we needed experts, first of all. The ministry does have commissioners and what have you, but now experts who understand the private sector. Because we decided as government that we go private sector led way. So the private sector is going to lead this economy. They will need support. They will need agencies that do this. And I think the biggest difference was actually in salary as well. Those who were in government were not earning enough to attract the elite who then came in to run the various organizations. So, and therefore, we got better people, so theoretically, in the various organizations that were supporting the private sector. So that was the rationalization at the beginning. Now we are seeing a reversal. Again, I think we need to look at the salaries. In government, they have improved. They have improved. They can attract quality. And secondly, the feeling now is government should be able to handle and cut the costs. I think that's what I'm hearing as to what it is we are doing now. The private sector this is a private sector-led economy. The coffee I've grown my coffee. Absolutely doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs to me, right? I don't know what this discussion is about of taking people's coffee and how. How do you come to my place and pick my coffee without my permission, without you giving me the fair price that I expect? So I don't know what that discussion is about. We gave this coffee to the farmer. He owns it. He will sell it to whoever he wants. Secondly, we have developed over the years very strong private sector people in this sector. They are the ones that then buy the coffee, process it to the limited extent that we do. We don't take it all the way. And that's the challenge that the president would really love. All of us would love to see value addition all the way to instant coffee. But at least they are processing it and selling Kase, Robusta, whatever, and the other one, Arabica, right? So that is what it is at the moment. Now, when these people come in Parliament, they're all fighting our wars, fighting for us, that, we are going to, I don't know where our coffee is going to go, but it is going to somehow disappear. I don't know what the discussion is about.
Well, the discussion is about moving UCDA from where it is now to the Ministry of Agriculture. But the concern being raised by some of these people in Parliament is that that particular movement is likely to hurt the gains that there have been made, because they do not trust the ministry the way it is to deliver as UCDA has been doing.
Yes, and I think you have to, that's where I came in with the very strong private sector that we have. They are also delivering. We provide with guidance from UCDA, with policies that UCDA and regulations that UCDA has set. And UCDA reports to who? Who do they report to? Who sits on their board? The ministry.
The ministry.
The ministry. So UCDA is not totally independent. They have been. Victoria, is that true?
To a certain extent. Let me comment on that. When you are a minister, and a real minister, my if is huge. So for me, when I was there and I was given my if, because at first it used to be Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. Then it became my if. Now, under my if, you have all the flies, the bees, the fish, you name it, everything is there. Like right now, in my organization, the Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, we are advocating for onions. They are also in my if. And actually, I went to see the minister and told him I want to promote onions. So by the time this minister has handed of tunguru and yuchi and sassaflies and beef and milk and whatever, coffee is just like any other kid.
What you seem to suggest it's only the minister that runs the ministry, but there are commissioners. In this case, they are telling us UCDA will be under the commissioner, so we expect that person to be competent enough.
Let me tell
to
you
deliver
something.
For the coffee
At
subsector.
the end of the day, the buck stops with the leader. And in a minute, let Uganda listen to this. If you get a minister, for example, those of you who have got very exhausted ministers, you are toasted. Because it is the minister who dreams for the ministry. We do the policy. The technical team does the technical work. But you as the minister have to have the vision. Now, if your vision is a bit blurred and whatever, that minister is going to have blurred vision. That is one. Then two, if I can go back a bit to
what she was pointing to. The control of the ministry vis-a-vis UCDA.
Yeah. Now, when you take coffee, UCDA, to Maif, this is what is going to happen. In the ministry, you have the minister who is up there, whose job it is to do policy, got cabinet and all that. Then you have the permanent secretary, which permanent secretary has now been made partly technical. Unfortunately, there is no requirement that in order to be permanent secretary for Maif, you have to be technical. So then there will be a commissioner in charge of coffee. This commissioner will be operating under this non-technical permanent secretary. But this wonderful permanent secretary is also the permanent secretary for all the commissioners, the commissioner for bees, flies, fish, and everything. So when if let's say he was a pig feeding his piglets, all coffee, the pigs themselves, the cattle, whatever, will be suckling this PS. And that is what I'm saying, that the crowd is far too big for coffee to have a fair share in order for it to contribute what we want it to contribute.
All right. Professor Maggie Chigoze, and it's the same message that is being articulated by those who are saying this bill should be actually dropped, that the ministry is too crowded, coffee will be lost. Do you agree with that assessment?
It's possible. I am not going to disagree with that. I have seen the ministry. I also recognize they have some strengths because they go all the way down to the district. We have district agriculture officers.
To the parish.
Even in the parish. So we do extend much further than UCDA. We have a few technical people working. So they do have their advantages in that they will get down there to the small farmer. Secondly, the way they have come up with a structure of food. Now, coffee is going to join the food regulator in the ministry. And, maybe it can work. I don't know. If they took the UCDA staff who are already very experienced, put them in this body, I think it could work. And rationalizing, giving still the same kind of salaries, like now it's more competitive in the ministries, they should be happy working there. So I don't know. UCDA has been wonderful for us. It has. It starts you off right with the information, gives you the seeds, tells you the research to go where to go, and then also helps you along the way.
With the marketing.
And later on with the marketing. But even just with the what seed are you planting, how are you planting it? So we come from that level. And then nurseries, can you form a nursery? Then go to research and get the proper lines of seedlings that you need. And then now they've gone even a step further. They were able to provide people like me, a few of us, with a processing mill, a wet processing mill. So yes,
which is value addition.
It's value addition. Yes, the start of the value addition. We need to go so much more further. Yes, so they are able to do that, but at the same time, they could do that while in the ministry. I know it's a lot of projects in the ministry, but yeah. So the rationalization, I don't know. I think government must have worked it out that it is possible.
All right.
They would not just instruct on something that has not been researched and has not been thought out.
Right. You did mention that this is a private sector-led economy, but you did also mention that you are a farmer, you're a coffee farmer,
Yes.
and there are so many like you out there who have been contributing strongly to this particular sector. Have you been consulted? Do you feel your views have been taken up when it comes to this particular issue that we are looking at?
No, this particular issue I have not been consulted. No, apart from you, the media, who come to find out what my views are. But you know how many coffee farmers in Uganda are there?
Mm.
I'm among the newest. I've only been in coffee for the last 5 years, so I don't know why they would be prioritizing me.
I'm not talking about you as an individual.
Yes.
Maybe the entire coffee value chain.
Yes.
You as farmers who are a particular niche in coffee.
Yes.
Mm. Do you think there has been consultation?
It has been consultation.
Probably you've been hearing from your colleagues
Yes.
in the sector where they consulted. What view are they putting across?
Yes, they, of course, we're always afraid of change.
Mm.
You know, we want things to stay the way they are. But government is trying to convince us that it is possible to do it through the ministry, and it will be with all the others, which could be better.
Mm.
So it's not just coffee that's being looked at, but together with all the other food products in the country. So that's my view, is that yes,
You are hopeful.
UCDA did a wonderful job for us while we were starting, and we would really be happy if they continued. But if enough research has been done, and this is the way forward, and the ministry will actually be able to handle, it will be given the resources that maybe have been given to UCDA, I think they could handle.
Right. Honorable Victoria.
Yes.
You want to chip in as Dr. Maggie Chogozo was articulating her views there. You're busy writing down. Probably you are noting something too.
Taking notes from her.
I'm taking notes from her.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the key stakeholders in this particular regard have been well consulted from what you're seeing?
First of all, well is relative. That is one. Then two, because the coffee sector was still with UCDA, it looks like Maif did not know what end of the stick to touch, because I have never been invited to a meeting by Maif to consult me and a few others about, okay, we want to rationalize how best do you think we can do it. Because if we can go back a bit, when I was minister in the early 90s, coffee production was under Maif. So we did all the on-farm work, but then the marketing was done by CMB. And Coffee Marketing Board had the monopoly. Now, under that monopoly, though, they had the auction under which the coffee would be marketed. Now, when UCDA was set up, somehow the auction disappeared. So, basically, because UCDA was doing the regulation and all that. So that is one. Two, in 1990, we had passed a policy which got Uganda government out of business. Well, if it was business, it had to be done elsewhere. Now, it looks like we are going back onto that. Because if you take UCDA back to Maif, when you do not have a coffee auction, that definitely means from the day this bill goes into effect, the following day, somehow somebody has got to sell this coffee. Who will sell it?
All right.
That is why I'm saying that if the destination had been clear, I doubt that many Ugandans would be complaining.
All right. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We need to go for a break now, but keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. Tell us what you think about the discussion we are having here in studio with these senior citizens contributing their views on the rationalization, but also the ongoing discussion about the coffee subsector. When we return, we'll look at one of the key aspects they have raised. How does the ordinary farmer benefit in the agriculture value chain? There are so many things that keep going on, but we keep hearing that the farmer is always left behind as the middlemen, collect a lot from the proceeds. Now, stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We'll continue after. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today we are looking at the coffee subsector as we also discuss the rationalization process. My guest, Honorable Victoria Sechitoleko, Chairperson, Uganda Agribusiness Alliance, Board Member at the Private Sector Foundation. She did serve as the Minister of Agriculture and was FAO representative in different countries. We have Professor Maggie Chigozi, business consultant, senior private sector player, did serve as the Executive Director, Uganda Investment Authority, and plays other key roles in our society. Well, before we went for the break, we had looked at a number of issues, including whether we are making the right choice to actually move UCDA back to the Ministry of Agriculture. But there are key issues that you raised as this discussion went on. The fact that the ordinary farmer, not only in the coffee subsector, but also in other particular areas, they are always left out. They are not benefiting. There's a problem. We actually told the middleman gets a lot of the money more than the ordinary farmer. And I'll begin with you, Professor Maggie Chigozi. What do you think we need to do to actually address that particular issue? Because the farmer puts in a lot and they are getting far little.
The price actually is known. I don't know who would be accepting to get far little, because we actually pick up a newspaper and we know what the price is for that day. And that's what we expect to get as farmers. So I don't know. I think the one who gets the raw end of the stick is the one who hasn't got quality, did not do, not dry the coffee well, picked green coffee. So the quality also matters. But for the farmer who has been taught, and because we have been taught, we have been taken through and actually they've gone as far as getting your green berries that you've dried and throwing them away if you didn't do it properly. So the farmers are now producing a much better quality all round. And this would fetch a reasonable price. Of course, there is the challenge of taking this coffee to where it's supposed to go. And that's where the middleman comes into these very small holders who don't have the capacity to do that. And therefore they may get they may get cheated in that way. But for those who are able to read the newspaper, we know how much it costs, and we've done all the necessary. We've picked red berries, we've dried them properly. We shouldn't be facing that as farmers.
Honorable Victoria.
Yes, please.
On the issue of the farmer versus the middleman.
On the issue, first of all, on the issue of the farmer.
You did ask a question, why is the person in Masaka, the farmer of coffee,
not getting $10?
$10.
Because when Maggie's Dr. Professor says that you read the newspaper, that is a Uganda newspaper. But when you read the world newspaper where the coffee is going, minimum price is $10. And I would love for a Ugandan farmer in Masaka, in Busede Jinja, to get $10.
How is that possible?
It is very possible if the government of Uganda was to man up and say, this is our product, this is the price, you either pay this or tezija kufuluma. You'd be surprised what can happen.
Really? Do we have the muscle to do that?
I'm sure President Museveni has the muscle. He has managed things which some people thought were unmanageable. So this one, piece of cake. So for me, when Professor asked where is the private sector in this, and then we are talking about the middleman. The middlemen we are talking about are those multinationals who have practically gone all over Uganda and searched for every coffee bean and given us what they think we should get, and somehow because they are the majority and they have got the money, that's the price that gets into the newspaper. I, for one, would like the private sector to actually be prominent in this new bill, because for me that is the beginning of my worry. Like I said, I don't know where we are going, because fortunately I have been the other side and now I'm this side. But now I'm part of the private sector. The private sector would like to know, okay, you want to take away UCDA, but where are we? Where are we? Two, what is the advantage? Because forget about what UCDA has done, the seedlings, the regulation, the whatever. Now we are looking at the future. What is the future advantage to the farmer in going to Maif? Nobody has any issue with going to Maif. So several people are there and we know what is happening there. But it would be nice if somebody said, when you come to Maif, like when we go to heaven, everything will be white and the path will be paved.
President Museveni has explained in his missive that nothing is going to change. We're still going to maintain the same gains or even do it much better because there's going to be maximum supervision.
But who says the current situation is heaven? We want some change. We want to do better. He himself said he's not going to preside over slaves. Like I said, we want to get more money. So I was looking forward to a bill which empowers the private sector more. That is why I'm talking about this. The former CMB had this auction, set up the auction. Because when you said, for example, if you had to set up an auction, okay, if I was Honorable Tumwebaze now, the moment I read this thing...
And you had power.
And doesn't he have power? Never mind.
Earlier you talked about certain ministers, but you didn't define them.
Okay, if I was Honorable Tumwebaze now, as soon as I read that they are going to rationalize UCDA, the very following morning I would go straight to meet with the Minister of Finance, together with the Minister of Trade, and tell them this is not a bad thing, but let us prepare for the future. How? Between the three of them, they should actually be the ones to set up the auction. If during this discussion, this auction thing was already there and we were told that, now you have been getting $4 and you're excited, wait for it. You are going to get $10. Everybody would be saying, Tulindachi, what are we waiting for?
Why is the auction so important? What would it do?
You see, when you are government, like the president of Uganda, I remember in 1989, said government does not joke. The moment you become a president, you lose the right to joke. So once you have a policy, it is a policy, it is a government policy, and everybody respects it. So if you are to set up this auction, and it is regulated by government, that is why I'm telling you about the three ministries, Minister of Trade, Minister of Agriculture, and Minister of Finance. Then they set up this auction, which is regulated so that nobody sets up a cartel in order to cheat the farmers. You would be surprised what the change would be within a very short time. Because, for example, we talk about, the professor has told you how they have been given machines in order for them to do weight processing. After that, they go on and dry, then they do the grading. So you have got those beans which are size screen 18, 16, and whatever. With screen 18, which I have seen, it is very interesting when you look at a whole basket of screen 18. I've seen this in Blambly, I've seen it in Masaka and Ruwoka. The amount of money one would get, it would be just sheer madness. So for me, that let me see, it is the job of government to set up the rules, to do the regulations, and to make sure when they say it is the job of government to look after Ugandans and their property. The president wants everybody to become rich, and I'm saying if he's using the word rich, for me, I want them to get richer.
All right. Dr. Magichigozi, one of the things President Yoweri Museveni is not happy about is the fact that those developed countries that take our coffee here are actually earning much more from us. He has kept on talking about this issue, if I can remember very well, for the last 3 years. And he's right. For
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Why are we not going where the developed countries are? You as a private sector who lead the economy, what would you need, for instance, to reach a point where we can actually send this coffee in a processed form or in a situation where we can actually be able to earn more?
Exactly. That has always been the dream, to do value addition. We even have markets already. China, even the Arab states. China is interested in instant coffee, if possible. The challenge here has been to find an investor. At one point, we had Tata ready to partner with UCDA, and we even gave them land. We have 20 acres in Namambe that were for the coffee project. And that somehow did not work. Tata lost interest. Then we got the president of Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, was going to partner again with UCDA, and we add value, and we do instant coffee and all the other value addition. Again, the government, well, he got killed, which was very sad. But yes, so that was that dream ending. The land is still there, but what has been tried by government? We've heard of Pinetti. We have seen in Ntungamo something is actually happening there. Now government trying, but one of our biggest challenges is you, the Ugandan. Could you please drink some coffee?
Well, the other day there was some money which was put up available to teach us how to drink coffee.
Did you learn?
Did you learn?
I haven't seen someone who has come to tell me to drink coffee.
Yes, so that is a problem. Ethiopia, South Sudan, even South, grow coffee, and 50% they sell on the domestic market. Already, you have this captive market. Us, nothing. None of you guys want to drink coffee.
Would you blame it on us, or you could blame the colonial system? Because it seems we were, set up as a cash crop economy, where we simply grow the cash crop and then send it abroad, and that might have,
yes,
gotten into our minds.
The problem was, I think, even the British preferred tea. So they were growing coffee here, but mainly to sell to other people. They were also tea drinkers, so we also became tea drinkers. But the young generation, I think, is changing. I see Gen X, Gen Z now actually having some coffee. So we can dream. We can dream that if we add value, we value add locally. Star Coffee, for example, I know it's made in Tanzania, but it's a Ugandan brand. Made out of Ugandan coffee by a Ugandan entrepreneur, is on the market, but how much of it is there? Not very much.
When you look at the setup of the private sector today, do we have the people who have the knowledge, the capacity, and the enthusiasm to actually do something about adding value to coffee here in our country?
Yes, unfortunately, it's a huge investment. It's a huge investment that is required if you're going to go all the way up to instant coffee. It is almost fully digitalized. There are very few employed in the process, so it is very, very expensive. Yes, our private sector are strong. The foreign companies, are big, but they are limited because they have to compete against the investors themselves back home, because they take our coffee there, process it, and bring it back and make a lot of money.
More money.
So why would they want to do it here? So we are going to depend largely on our local investors and government to be able to do that. But when we do it, the market is there.
All right. Yeah. Honorable Victoria, would you like to share on that, our journey to instant coffee?
First of all,
given the fact that President Museveni has been complaining for the last 20 years.
Yeah. First of all, I like coffee. I drink 1 cup of coffee every morning, and that's it. I 1 cup every day. But about drinking coffee, I was in Ethiopia for 3 years, and it is true Ethiopians drink a lot of coffee. But to tell you the truth, the Ethiopian government is not exactly celebrating that the locals are drinking coffee, because they don't pay as much as the foreigners. Yeah. If this coffee was sold, they would get more money. So they are now trying to produce more coffee so that those who drink can drink while they export. So for me, I'm one of those people who is not bothered that Ugandans are not drinking coffee. They don't like to drink coffee. The buyers are waiting outside. All that Uganda has to do is sort itself, which now brings me to the youth and then the coffee itself. You know, currently there is what we call specialized coffee. And but when you hear somebody telling you that, you see, I sell specialized coffee and I get like double what you get when you sell your coffee here. They get like $10, whatever. Do you think in order to get specialized coffee, you can get some new trees and you plant them and whatever? No. It is just the system of production, and then the way you market what you are growing. Meaning, if Mr. Mukasa has 10 acres of coffee, and Mr. Smith in Germany wants to buy this coffee, I'll go back a bit. This is how the world works. When you hear about roasters in Europe, in the United States, most of these roasters are small. It is a small restaurant. They wake up every morning and go to the store where they sell the coffee, and they pick up a bag. I've been to these stores and I've seen the bag clearly labeled coffee from maybe Chazanga, and it is there in Germany. So this small restaurant goes to this place, picks up its bag for the day. They go and roast in the morning, and they do the breakfast. And some restaurants actually only do breakfast, one bag a day. So they are dealing with this importer. Now, because you have liked the coffee from Jazanga and you want to bring your aunt to also taste that coffee, this guy down importing from Jazanga will import the same coffee from Mr. Mukasa from January to December. So that even if you bring your visitors in August or whatever, they will not
be there.
Exactly. So really, in a nutshell, that's what we call specialty coffee. Of course, you have got to produce it in such a way that it is organic, it is this and the other, but that is what we call specialty coffee. And I, for one, you know, when I keep asking, where is the private sector? I'm looking for the youth. This Gen Z population does not have land. But then not everybody in the agribusiness sector should go into production. They know how to use computers, because most of this trade is done online. That is one. Two, many of them have actually been educated abroad, so they have the contacts. So when I ask what is the private sector, I would have loved during this change to see a situation where the youth read themselves into this act, knowing that there will be somebody to handhold them so that they can learn to export this coffee. And I want to say something about coffee export. You know, I have got many friends who are coffee exporters. Among them, if I have 100 friends, maybe 10 are graduates. But most of them are those who nearly passed senior 6, stopped in senior 4, and they are exporting coffee. So if you are a graduate, you have got a master's degree. I don't know why you are looking for what to do when you have got coffee to be exported. That is one thing which I know for sure that UCDA was doing, hand-holding the youth and bringing them into the coffee sector. I sincerely hope and pray that when the president says, since some people seem not to be happy with the decision, let us sit down and talk, I'm really hoping and praying that we shall sit down and talk, because I want my question answered. Where are the youth in this change? Change is good, but where are the youth? What is private sector? Specifically, where are the youth?
All right, we have comments coming in from the listeners, so I'll read out some of these comments and you will respond to them. We have a comment coming in from Charles from Wakiso Town Council, who says, one, someone receives 39 billion to market coffee. That's when UCDA was rationalized, because that mandate was taken away. Two, why should government employees be paid peanuts that kill their motivation to perform? Can't we have better facilitation to MAIF so that that money goes to UCDA? Then we have another comment here from Mariko. My dear Ugandans, we are really finished. I bought machines for stone shaping, but my surprise, I was told that I can't pick a single stone without a license from the same government. Some big guys who come from far away in Karamoja, now they started owning the rocks from Karamoja. Coffee will be the same. Then we have another comment. I am Kuka in Mukono. For the first time, President Museveni has seen how incompetent government institutions can be. They even fear change. Is it about the name of the institution or what it produces? If you change the name UCDA or UNRA into departments, what is the problem? There is some capricious overtone in this discussion. Then somebody writes in and says, over 50% of Ugandans are doing without jobs. Surely we can also do without agencies. Then we have another comment from George, who is listening in from Bunga. Government is in big trouble. Why the citizens have passed a vote of no confidence in it? Because of mistrust basing on many incidents which have happened. Do you remember the big fight on Lubowa Hospital, where the president pulled all energies to defend it? Now, after 2 years, nothing can be shown apart from the mockery on taxpayers' money. Then we have another comment. Thank you for bringing the two senior citizens to discuss this very important subject. In their submission, they both noted that they have not been consulted. My question is, who is government consulting on this very important issue? Why would Dr. Magi Chigozi choose to become a coffee farmer when we know that it is the middlemen who make all the money and the Ugandan farmer remains a subsistence beggar living in a mud hut? Okello Patrick Bonyo rising from Busega. UCDA is the government arm doing work under central government supervision, so rationalizing it has limited effect as long as coffee prices are up. The farmer still benefits. What some MPs are doing is just casual politics. Another comment from Masaba, who is listening in from Tororo. Can you remind the guests about the NRM government, how it wanted to scratch away the Bugisu Cooperative Union, but the Bamasaba stood up and said no, and that's why it is still alive up to now. Kauma Digo listening in from Mitiana. Good evening, Spectrum. The problem majority of Ugandans have lost trust in this same government because of what they promise and never materializes. In 1987, currency reform, structural adjustment program, free and fair election, plan for modernization of agriculture, etc. Now all have failed. Why would Ugandans believe them? Samuel Mary Namulondo, rising from Boyogerere. Let Mr. Museveni and his officials focus on other issues because rationalizing UCDA seems has failed. Let the government sideline with the downtrodden coffee farmers and put the bill into the basket. Another comment, UCDA is given a special two-way for me. Either UCDA is given a specialized role of marketing the coffee and the other operations left at the ministry. The government adopts the UCDA operations and better it to limit loopholes. The mafias from Uganda, the mafias from Buganda, mostly the MPs, have been buying coffee in black market. We need to rationalize the UCDA to allow government to control the mafias. That's a comment from Stan. Then we have a comment from Hannah, who is listening in from Lugazi. Please explain how the foreign market gain more from our coffee than us, the source. Is it because we export it in raw form? Well, those are some of the comments that have been able to come in. We have a few minutes. You can choose any to respond to, and we wind up this discussion. We begin with you, Professor Magi Chigozi.
Oh, thank you. There were so many questions. It's difficult to know which one to take and which one to leave. Yes, about government employees being paid, could be paid better. I think, we need for government employees to be paid better to get to the level of what the other various authorities are getting. On the stone shaping, I will not make a comment on that. Sorry, apart from sorry. Government change into departments, yes, it is possible and it could work. It could work depending on how well it is done. As Victoria told us, that would be so many departments in that particular one ministry. But Victoria was also heading the Uganda Investment Authority. We had even more departments because we had the oil and the minerals, and so you can probably handle. We didn't have to do as much as working with the regular farmer, but we could actually promote all the opportunities in this country. Yes, we've had some failures like the Lubowa Hospital, and but we've also had numerous successes.
Indeed.
Yes, you see, the Aga Khan Hospital is coming. It's already up, part of it, and it's coming. So although there are some failures, and business is business. Have you ever tried a business? Did you succeed the first time, the second time? So business does come sometimes with failures, and yet maybe your expectations were high. But yeah, the Lubowa Hospital was sad. So Victoria.
Let's hear from Victoria. Your closing remarks as we come to the end of this show.
Okay, my first comment goes to the gentleman who asked about paying government workers. Honestly, in order to work in Ministry of Agriculture, you have to be a scientist. So when the salaries for scientists were augmented, Maif was a beneficiary. But the problem with what is happening now, Mr. President, sir, if you are listening, when you have a leadership which are not scientists, and then you give all that facilitation to the scientists, it is not like the leaders are really dancing that these people are happy. I have been told that in some cases, these scientists are being told, just eat your salary and keep quiet. So whoever asked the question, I want to tell you that the facilitation is good, and I'm sure when the scientists who are in UCDA go to Maif, they will get the scientist salary. But there is more to life than a salary. One has to be able to deliver. Then, why should foreign markets get more than...
That was our last comment.
Now, the point I've been laboring about the auction starts from there.
Okay.
The first thing that happens when and if you as Uganda take matters in your hand, so that you know what the world price is, and as Uganda government, you say nobody is buying any coffee from Uganda today below $10.
All right.
That is the job of government. Then when it comes to Russia, you want to rationalize. I agree with rationalization, but as a woman, we always have our priorities.
Okay.
If and when I have very little money, I cannot go to do my nails and my hair before I have bought food for the family.
All right.
In other words, coffee is the food. Prioritize it.
All right. With that, we come to the end of Spectrum. I must say it has been a pleasure hosting you two senior citizens. Thank you very much for making time to discuss. Hopefully, next time we'll have another topic where you can also share your views based on the key roles that you've played in our society. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for tuning in and also contributing with your thoughts. Up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, we'll have the Soul Train with BB Jr.